There we go, a little bit of background music. Sorry guys, if you're already here, I am just getting a couple things set real fast. We'll be starting in just a couple of minutes. Get the timer up. Try that again. Oops. Hopefully nobody saw that. I did not mean to say that there would be over 90 hours, or 91 days, not hours. That might have been a little bit excessive. Just a touch. You don't want to wait 91 days for the next stream, Bella? That'd have to be like the longest running stream ever if I just left that up there. Twitch. Always logging in from the same machine. Why does it keep making me do a code? Anyway, how are you today, Vela? Gecko! Hi, Gecko. How is the gecko? Hello, Sparky. Everybody's showing up. I like it. Makes me happy to see all of you here. Obviously, it's really me. I mean, who else would it be? Who else would make such terrible, terrible puns? You feel like poo today? Like warm and a little squishy? Ugh, it's kind of gross. Why do you feel like poo? Oh, don't mind me stretching. All right. Let's go with that. Ow, ow, ow. Teapot is hot. Teapot is hot. Teapot is really hot. Ow, 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 ow. Pour faster. Okay, so hazards of tea drinking. Sometimes the teapot is crazy freaking hot. Obviously, I need a tea cozy of some sort. I wonder if they have Cthulhu tea cozies. That'd be cool, right? Cthulhu tea cozy. Let's see. Cthulhu tea cozy. It's coffee cozies. They do have Cthulhu tea cozies. Oh my god. There's even a steampunk Cthulhu tea cozy. These are awesome. Tea cozy would definitely help. Nameless! Hello, it's been a long time. How are you? I am looking at Cthulhu tea cozies. I think I'll post one in the Discord real quick. Can't type. Tea cozy. Alright. For those of you in the Discord, there'll be a Cthulhu tea cozy in the channel. I mean, it's kind of fluffy. Let's put it in the fluffy channel. Tea cozy, tea cozy, tea cozy, tea cozy. Alright. It's in the Where the Fluffy Things Are channel. Check it out. It's adorable. Alright. Can I check the Discord? Okay. Hey, it is crocheted stuff, and Panda started it. So we all decided that her like sweater that she crocheted or knit or whatever counted as fluffy. So the tea cozy definitely counts as fluffy. So all right, what do you want me to look at, Nameless? Yes, it's fluffy. It's fluffy with tentacles, okay? And angry demonic red eyes. So I see good vibes only, and then something about monk. I don't actually know what monk is. I don't know if you remember, but Luddite didn't really do social media before this whole streaming thing. So there are glaring holes in my understanding of some aspects of culture. I mean, I could get behind all being monkey. Like Monkey King. Love me the Monkey King. Incredible bastard, though, really. But, you know, in an entertaining way. I'd also like to think people come in more shades than black and white. Not a real fan of binary choices myself. I like more like range, spectrum, you know, being your own mix of whatever. But if you were reading the title for the stream today, I am done with Nickleby and Mr. Dickens, and yeah, this is tiresome. I'm sorry, but I'm just not enjoying it. And I asked in the feedback channel if there's anybody that actually like affirmatively wanted to hear Nickleby anymore, and I got crickets. So I am going forward on the assumption that nobody minds if we don't finish Nickleby. If you do, speak up, you know, because I do want to hear it, and I don't want to just abandon a story if you guys are really into it. But I can appreciate wit and sarcasm and that sort of thing in descriptions and from authors writing up to a point, but it's gone from being clever to just bludgeoning with a sledgehammer for me. And I don't like reading a book where it seems like it's more about the author cleverly poking holes in the egos of archetypes of people he interacts with, rather than telling a story for the sake of like telling the story, if that makes sense. So I thought we would read a little more of the Arabian Nights instead, and then play some magic after that, probably. Although we could do Stardew or something else too, if people are interested. I am open to suggestions and requests. But I would like to read more Arabian Nights today. So, going forward for a little while, we will have two streams that are Arabian Nights. And after we finish Frankenstein, I was kind of thinking that we might transition to just reading one book at a time on multiple days during the week. I'm not decided on that course of action as such, but it is something I'm strongly considering. So if anybody has any feelings on that, I would love to hear from you, and let me know what you think. But it seems like we would get through books quicker and keep to the thread of the story more readily if we did it like that. I read, and I want to talk about that with you, but A, I didn't figure you wanted me talking about it on stream, and B, I don't feel like I could give the attention it deserves right now, because that is definitely something that deserves my full attention. So, if that's okay. It seems I am not the only one struggling a bit right now, and yours was not the only message for somebody struggling a bit that I have received in the last few minutes either. So if you guys want to talk about it on stream, I will, but if it's just something you want to talk about privately, I'll do that instead. I don't want to I'm trying to talk about my struggles on here, and I definitely appreciate that you guys trust me enough to share your struggles with me, but I don't want to just make the assumption that, you know, something shared in a DM is okay to share, because I don't think that's right. So it's not that I'm trying to ignore it, it's that I want to give it the attention that it deserves and the care that it deserves and that you guys deserve. So unless you bring it up directly in stream, in the stream chat, I'm going to assume that it is private and privileged and wait until after the stream to address it. But I am not going to ignore you. I figured, Vela. I am not just talking to you, though. There were several people. All right, let's do some Arabian Nights. Anything you want to ask 8-Ball before we switch over? I was about to say I'm not a goof, but I'm totally a goof. I can't deny that one. All right, I just didn't want to transition right in the middle of you asking a question again and deny you the pleasure and privilege of mocking me with the 8-Ball. And let's hide the cover art and the title, because we're not actually reading Frankenstein today. I am still waiting to hear anybody's thoughts on the whole power dynamics thing with Frankenstein, if anybody thought about that some after the stream. If you didn't catch yesterday's stream, I highly encourage you to at least listen to the first part, because we talked about some really interesting stuff with power dynamics, both within the novel and outside of the novel, with the author and her husband, and interactions with society at large, and the parallels between the author and the creature in the novel, and I thought it was really cool. I really hope to do more like discussions like that of material that we read. All right. So, for those of you who were here on Wednesday, or who weren't, I suppose, we were reading the Tales of Sinbad the Sailor, and he was famous for taking multiple incredible voyages. And so the stories for Sinbad are divided up into the tales of each voyage. And he was telling the first to a porter who was envious of his fortune and claiming that he was basically a self-made man. Of course, like many incredibly wealthy people who claim to be self-made, he actually inherited his wealth and then parlayed that into opportunities that aren't available to most people, and traded on the social relationships built on status and caste and that kind of thing. So I am not buying the character's argument that he's self-made in any way, shape, or form. I think he was blessed by fortune and social contacts and a initial start that almost nobody would have. That's me. Also, one second. I think Connie got me with another one of her hairs or something. Had a cough. Figured you guys didn't want to hear me coughing. Oh, sorry, Sparky. I missed the comment on the tea cozy. So the tea cozy would help not because it would make the teapot cool faster, but because it would insulate my hand from getting burnt on the surface of the teapot. So it would act as an insulating barrier between me and the heat. And that's why it would help. And, you know, it would look awesome with my Cthulhu statue in the background, having the Cthulhu tea cozy. I think it'd be really cool anyway. So, the second voyage of Sinbad the Sailor. I designed, after my first voyage, to spend the rest of my days at Baghdad. But it was not long ere I grew weary of an indolent life, and, therefore, I set out a second time upon a voyage. We embarked on board a good ship, and after recommending ourselves to God, set sail. We traded from island to island and exchanged commodities with great profit. One day we landed at an island covered with several sorts of fruit trees, but we could see neither man nor animal. We went to take a little fresh air in the meadows, along the streams that watered them, while some diverted themselves with gathering flowers, and others fruits. I took my wine and provisions, and sat down near a stream betwixt two high trees, which formed a thick shade. I made a good meal, and afterward fell asleep. I cannot tell how long I slept, but when I awoke, the ship was gone. I was much alarmed at finding the ship gone. I got up and looked around me, but could not see one of the merchants who landed with me. I perceived the ship under sail, but at such a distance that I lost sight of her in a short time. I upbraided myself 100 times for not being content with the produce of my first voyage, that might have sufficed me all my life. But all this was in vain, and my repentance too late. Not knowing what to do, I climbed up to the top of a lofty tree, whence I looked about on all sides, to see if I could discover anything that could give me hopes. When I gazed over the land, I beheld something white, and coming down, I took what provision I had left, and went toward it, the distance being so great that I could not distinguish what it was. So there's an old saying, time and tide wait for no man. So basically saying that if you don't make it for when the ship sails with the tide, you are out of luck and you're getting left behind. You do not want to miss ship's movement at all. It's bad news bears. Excuse me. As I approached, I thought it to be a white dome of a prodigious height and extent, and when I came up to it, I touched it, and found it to be very smooth. I went round to see if it was open on any side, but saw it was not, and that there was no climbing up to the top, as it was so smooth. It was at least 50 paces round. By this time the sun was about to set, and all of a sudden the sky became as dark as if it had been covered with thick cloud. I was much astonished at this sudden darkness, but much more when I found it occasioned by a bird of monstrous size that came flying toward me. I remembered that I had often heard mariners speak of a miraculous bird called a roc, and conceived that the great dome which I had so much admired must be its egg. In a short time the bird alighted and sat over the egg. As I perceived her coming, I crept close to the egg, so that I had before me one of the legs of the bird, which was as big as the trunk of a tree. I tied myself strongly to it with my turban, in hopes that the roc next morning would carry me with her out of this desert island. After having passed the night in this condition, the bird flew away as soon as it was daylight, and carried me so high that I could not discern the earth. She afterward descended with so much rapidity that I lost my senses. But when I found myself on the ground, I speedily untied the knot, and had scarcely done so, when the roc, having taken up a serpent of a great length in her bill, flew away. The spot where it had left me was encompassed on all sides by mountains, which seemed to reach above the clouds, and so steep that there was no possibility of getting out of the valley. This was a new perplexity, so that when I compared this place with the desert island from which the roc had brought me, I found that I had gained nothing by the change. As I walked through this valley, I perceived it was strewn with diamonds, some of which were of a surprising size. I took pleasure in looking upon them, but shortly I saw at a distance some objects that greatly diminished my satisfaction, and which I could not view without terror, namely, a great number of serpents, so monstrous that the least of them was capable of swallowing an elephant. They retired in daytime to their dens, where they hid themselves from the roc, their enemy, and came out only in the night. I spent the day in walking about in the valley, resting myself at times in such places as I thought most convenient. When night came on, I went into a cave, where I thought I might repose in safety. I secured the entrance, which was low and narrow, with a great stone to preserve me from the serpents, but not so far as to exclude the light. I supped on part of my provisions, but the serpents, which began hissing round me, put me into such extreme fear that you may easily imagine I did not sleep. When day appeared, the serpents retired, and I came out of the cave trembling. I can justly say that I walked upon diamonds without feeling any inclination to touch them. At last I sat down, and, notwithstanding my apprehensions, not having closed my eyes during the night, fell asleep, after having eaten a little more of my provision. But I had scarcely shut my eyes when something that fell by me with a great noise awakened me. This was a large piece of raw meat, and at the same time I saw several others fall down from the rocks in different places. I had always regarded as fabulous what I had heard sailors and others relate of the Valley of Diamonds, and of the stratagems employed by merchants to obtain jewels from thence. But now I found that they had stated nothing but the truth. For as a fact, the merchants come to the neighborhood of this valley when the eagles have young ones, and throwing great joints of meat into the valley, the diamonds, upon whose points they fall, stick to them. The eagles, which are stronger in this country than anywhere else, pounce with great force upon those pieces of meat, and carry them to their nests on the precipices of the rocks to feed their young. The merchants at this time run to their nests, disturb and drive off the eagles by their shouts, and take away the diamonds that stick to the meat. The happy idea struck me that here was a means of escape from my living tomb, so I collected a number of the largest diamonds, with which I filled my wallet, which I tied to my girdle. Then I fastened one of the joints of meat to the middle of my back by means of my turban cloth, and lay down with my face to the ground. I had scarcely placed myself in this posture when the eagles came. Each of them seized a piece of meat, and one of the strongest, having taken me up with the piece of meat to which I was fastened, carried me to his nest on the top of the mountains. The merchants began their shouting to frighten the eagles, and when they had obliged them to quit their prey, one of them came to the nest where I was. He was much alarmed when he saw me, but recovering himself, instead of inquiring how I came thither, began to quarrel with me and ask why I stole his goods. You will treat me, replied I, with more civility when you know me better. Do not be uneasy. I have diamonds enough for you and myself, more than all the other merchants together. Whatever they have, they owe to chance, but I selected for myself, in the bottom of the valley, those which you see in this bag. I had scarcely done speaking when the other merchants came crowding about us, much astonished to see me. But they were much more surprised when I told them my story. Yet they did not so much admire my stratagem to effect my deliverance as my courage in putting it into execution. Yep, all the girdles. They conducted me to their encampment, and there, having opened my bag, they were surprised at the largeness of my diamonds, and confessed that in all the courts which they had visited, they had never seen any of such size and perfection. I prayed the merchant, who owned the nest to which I had been carried, for every merchant had his own, to take as many for his share as he pleased. He contented himself with one, and that too the least of them. And when I pressed him to take more, without fear of doing me an injury, he said, "No, I am very well satisfied with this, which is valuable enough to save me the trouble of making any more voyages, and will raise as great a fortune as I desire." I spent the second night with the merchants, to whom I related my story a second time, for the satisfaction of those who had not heard it. I could not moderate my joy when I found myself delivered from the danger I have mentioned. I thought myself in a dream, and could scarcely believe myself out of danger. When at length I reached home, I gave large presents to the poor, and lived luxuriously upon my hard-earned wealth. Then Sinbad ended the account of his second voyage, and having given Hindbad another 100 sequins, asked him to come on the next day to hear his further adventures. I mean, I'll grant you that he acted quickly and was exposed to danger, but mostly he just fell asleep after eating. Also, I would more believe that the merchants would have killed him with their guards and taken all of the diamonds. That just seems more believable to me than, oh, I'll just take the smallest one you have and send you on your way. The third voyage. But maybe I have less faith in humanity than the author does. I don't know. I soon wearied of the idle, luxurious life I led, and therefore undertook another voyage. Overtaken by a dreadful tempest in the main ocean, we were driven upon an island which, the captain told us, was inhabited by savages from whom there was danger of attack. Though they were but dwarves, yet our misfortune was such that we must make no resistance, for they were more in number than the locusts, and if we happened to kill one of them, they would all fall upon us and destroy us. It was not long before the captain's words were proved, for an innumerable multitude of frightful savages, about 2 feet high, covered all over with red hair, came swimming toward us and encompassed our ships. We advanced into the island on which we were, and came to a palace, elegantly built and very lofty, with a gate of ebony of 2 leaves, which we forced open. We entered the court, where we saw before us a large apartment, with a porch, having on one side a heap of human bones, and on the other a vast number of roasting spits. Our fears were not diminished when the gates of the apartment opened with a loud crash, and out came the horrible figure of a giant as tall as a lofty palm tree. He had but one eye, and that in the middle of his forehead, where it looked as red as a burning coal. Anybody getting shades of the Odyssey here? Voyages of Odysseus and the Cyclops? His 4 teeth were very long and sharp, and stood out of his mouth, which was as deep as that of a horse. His upper lip hung down to his breast. His ears resembled those of an elephant and covered his shoulders, and his nails were as long and crooked as the talons of the greatest birds. At the sight of so frightful a giant, we became insensible, and lay like dead men. When he had considered us well, he advanced toward us, and laying his hand upon me, took me up by the nape of my neck, and turned me round as a butcher would do a sheep's head. After having examined me, and perceiving me to be so lean that I had nothing but skin and bone, he let me go. He took up all the rest one by one, and viewed them in the same manner. The captain, being the fattest, he held him with one hand as I would do a sparrow, and thrust a spit through him. He then kindled a great fire and roasted and ate him in his apartment for his supper. Having finished his repast, he returned to his porch, where he lay, and fell asleep, snoring louder than thunder. We all sat numbed by fear, but the next day, after the giant had gone out, we devised a means of vengeance. And so, when he had again made a supper of one of our number, and laid down to sleep, we prepared to execute the daring design. Therefore, 9 of us and myself, when we heard him snore, each armed with a spit, the points of which we had made red hot, approached the monster and thrust the spits into his eye at the same time, so that he was blind. The giant made wild efforts to seize us, but finding that we had hidden, he went out roaring in his agony. We lost no time in fleeing from the palace, and soon reached the shore, where we contrived to construct some rafts upon which to sail away in case of need. But knowing the danger that such a voyage would entail, we waited in the hope that the giant might be dead, since he had ceased to howl. Day had scarcely dawned, however, when we saw our enemy coming toward us, led by 2 others, nearly as big as himself, and accompanied by hosts of others. We immediately took to our rafts. Thereupon the giants, enraged at being thus balked, took up great stones, and running to the shore, entered the water up to the middle, and threw so exactly that they sunk all the rafts, but the one I was upon. All my companions, except the 2 with me, were drowned. We rowed with all our might, and got out of the reach of the giants, and tossed about for a day and night, until at last we reached an island, whereon grew much excellent fruit. At night we went to sleep on the seashore, but were awakened by the noise of a serpent of surprising length and thickness, whose scales made a rustling noise as it wound itself along. It swallowed up one of my comrades, notwithstanding his loud cries and the efforts he made to extricate himself from it. Dashing him several times against the ground, it crushed him, and we could hear it gnaw and tear the poor wretch's bones, though we had fled to a considerable distance. Seeing the danger to which we were exposed, we climbed a tall tree the next night to escape the serpent. But to our horror, the monster raised itself against the trunk of the tree, and perceiving my companion, who was lower down than I, swallowed him and withdrew. I remained in the tree till it was day, and then came down and collected together a great quantity of small wood, brambles, and dry thorns, and tying them up into faggots, made a wide circle with them round the tree, and also tied some of them to the branches over my head. Having done this, when the evening came, I shut myself up within this circle, with the melancholy satisfaction that I had neglected nothing which could preserve me from the cruel destiny with which I was threatened. The serpent failed not to come at the usual hour, and went round the tree, seeking for an opportunity to devour me, but was prevented by the rampart I had made. So it lay till day, like a cat, watching in vain for a mouse that has fortunately reached a place of safety. When day appeared, it retired, but I dared not leave my fort until the sun arose. As I ran toward the sea, determined to no longer prolong my miserable existence, I perceived a ship at a considerable distance. I called as loud as I could, and taking the linen from my turban, displayed it, that they might observe me. This had the desired effect. The crew perceived me, and the captain sent his boat for me. As soon as I came on board, the merchants and seamen flocked about me to know how I came into that desert island. And after I had related to them all that had befallen me, the oldest among them told me that they had several times heard of the giants that dwelt at that island, and that they were cannibals, and ate men raw as well as roasted. And as to the serpents, they added, they were in abundance on the island, hiding themselves by day and coming abroad by night. After having shown their joy at my escaping so many dangers, they brought me the best of their provisions. The captain, being the man who had deserted me upon my second voyage, seeing that I was in rags, was so generous as to give me one of his own suits. I soon made myself known to him, whereupon he exclaimed, "God be praised! I rejoice that fortune has rectified my fault. There are your goods, which I always took care to preserve." I took them from him, thanked him warmly for his honesty, and contrived to deal so well on the voyage that I arrived at Bussorah with another vast fortune. From Bussorah I returned to Baghdad, where I gave a great deal to the poor, and bought another considerable estate in addition to what I already had. Having thus finished the account of his third voyage, Sinbad sent Hindbad on his way, after he had given him another 100 sequins, and invited him to dinner the next day to hear the continuation of his voyage, or of his adventures. All right. Let's do one more voyage, and then let's switch to a game or something. Sound all right to you guys? The fourth voyage. It was not long before I again started on a journey. This time I traveled through Persia and arrived at a port where I took ship. We had not been long at sea when a great storm overtook us, which was so violent that the sails were split into 1,000 pieces, and the ship was stranded. Several of the merchants and seamen were drowned, and the cargo was lost. I had the good fortune, with several of the merchants and mariners, to get upon some planks, and we were carried by the current to an island which lay before us. There we found fruit and spring water, which preserved our lives, and we lay down almost where we had landed and slept. Next morning, as soon as the sun was up, we walked from the shore, and advancing into the island, saw some houses which we approached. As soon as we drew near, we were encompassed by a great number of natives who seized us, shared us among them, and carried us to their respective habitations. I and 5 of my comrades were carried to one place, where they made us sit down and gave us a certain herb, which they made signs to us to eat. My comrades, not taking notice that the natives ate none of it themselves, thought only of satisfying their hunger, and ate with greediness. But I, suspecting some trick, would not so much as taste it, which turned out well for me, for in a short time I perceived my companions had lost their senses, and that when they spoke to me, they knew not what they said. They afterward fed us with rice prepared with oil of coconuts, and my comrades, who had lost their reason, ate of it greedily. I also partook of it, but very sparingly. They gave us that herb at first on purpose to deprive us of our senses, that we might not be aware of the sad destiny prepared for us. And they supplied us with rice to fatten us, for, being cannibals, their design was to eat us as soon as we grew fat. This accordingly happened, for they devoured my comrades, who were not sensible of their condition. But my senses being entire, you may easily guess that instead of growing fat, as the rest did, I grew leaner every day. The fear of death under which I labored turned all my food into poison. I fell into a languishing distemper, which provided my safety. For the natives, having killed and eaten my companions, seeing me to be withered, lean, and sick, deferred my death. You know, honestly, I would not sail with this guy. It seems like every voyage he's on, everybody but him dies and meets disaster. Meanwhile, I had much liberty, so that scarcely any notice was taken of what I did. And this gave me an opportunity one day to get at a distance from the houses and to make my escape. An old man who saw me and suspected my design called to me as loud as he could to return. But instead of obeying him, I redoubled my speed and quickly got out of sight. I traveled as fast as I could and chose those places which seemed most deserted, living for 7 days on the fruit I gathered. On the 8th day I came near the sea and saw some people like myself gathering pepper, of which there was great plenty in that place. As soon as they saw me, they came to meet me, and asked me in Arabic who I was and whence I came. I was overjoyed to hear them speak in my own language, and satisfied their curiosity by giving them an account of my shipwreck, and how I fell into the hands of the natives. Those natives, they told me, ate men, and they marveled by what miracle I had escaped their cruelty. I related to them the circumstances I have just mentioned, at which they were greatly surprised. I stayed with them till they had gathered their quantity of pepper, and then sailed with them to the island from whence they had come. They presented me to their king, who was a good prince. He listened to my story, bade me welcome, and soon had conceived a great friendship for me, which fact made me a person of importance in the capital. None of these people rides with either saddle or bridle, and so, wishing to honor the king, I went to a workman and gave him a model for making the stock of a saddle. When that was done, I covered it myself with velvet and leather, and embroidered it with gold. I afterward went to a smith who made me a bit, according to the pattern I showed him, and also some stirrups. When I had all the trappings completed, I presented them to the king, and put them upon one of his horses. His majesty mounted immediately, and was so pleased with them that he showed his satisfaction by large presents, and said, "I wish you to marry, and think no more of your own land, but stay here as long as you live." I durst not resist the prince's will, and he gave me one of the ladies of his court, noble, beautiful, and rich. The ceremonies of marriage being over, I went and dwelt with my wife, and for some time we lived together in perfect harmony. I was not, however, content with my exile. Therefore I designed to make my escape upon the first opportunity, and to return to Baghdad, which my present circumstances, however advantageous, could not make me forget. At this time the wife of one of my neighbors, with whom I had contracted a very strict friendship, fell sick and died. I went to see and comfort him in his affliction, and finding him absorbed in sorrow, I said to him as soon as I saw him, "God preserve you, and grant you a long life." "Alas," replied he, "your good wishes are in vain, for I must be buried this day with my wife. This is a law which our ancestors established in this island, and it is always observed inviolably. The living husband is interred with the dead wife, and the living wife with the dead husband. Nothing can save me. Everyone must submit to this law." While he was giving me an account of this barbarous custom, the very relation of which chilled my blood, his kindred, friends, and neighbors came in a body to assist at the funeral. They dressed the body of the woman in her richest apparel, and all her jewels, as if it had been her wedding day, and then they placed her in an open coffin, and began their march to the place of burial. The husband walked at the head of the company, and followed the corpse. They proceeded to a high mountain, and when they had reached the place of their destination, they took up a large stone which covered the mouth of a deep pit, and let the corpse with all its apparel and jewels. Then the husband, embracing his kindred and friends, suffered himself to be put into another open coffin without resistance, with a pot of water and 7 small loaves, and was let down in the same manner. The mountain was of considerable length, and extended along the seashore, and the pit was very deep. The ceremony being over, the aperture was again covered with the stone, and the company returned. Not long after this, I was destined to share a like fate, for my wife, of whose health I took particular care, fell sick and died. In spite of every effort on my part, the law of the land had to be fulfilled. And so, accompanied by the king and the chief nobles, who had come to honor me at their grave, I was lowered into the tomb with my wife's body, and the usual supply of bread and water. I had come to the end of my provisions, and was expecting death, when I heard a puffing noise as of something breathing. I moved toward the place whence the sound came, and heard a scurrying of feet as the creature ran away. I pursued it, and at last perceived what seemed to be a star in the distance. The speck of light grew larger as I approached, and I found that it was a hole in the side of the mountain above the seashore. I cast myself upon the sand, overcome with joy, and as I raised my eyes to heaven, I perceived a ship at no great distance. I waved my turban linen, which attracted the attention of those on board, whereupon they sent a boat which carried me safely on board. I told the captain that I was a shipwrecked merchant, and he believed my story, and without asking any questions, took me with him. After a long voyage, during which we called at several ports, whereat I made much money, I arrived happily at Baghdad with infinite riches, of which it is needless to trouble you with the detail. Out of gratitude to God for his mercies, I contributed liberally toward the support of several mosques and the subsistence of the poor, and gave myself up to the society of my kindred and friends, enjoying myself with them in festivities and amusements. Sinbad, then presented another 100 sequins to the porter, and bade him honor him with his presence again the next day. He is for sure a bad luck charm. He even got his wife killed. Ugh. No good. Definitely don't want to go voyaging with him. Alright. Let's play some Magic for a little bit, and then if anybody wants to play a different game, we can do that too. Alright. Show the gameplay stream. Edit stream info. Magic, there we go. And updated. Alright. If any of you guys want to play me in Magic, just pop in, and if you don't already have me on the friends list, say something in chat and I will bring up the friend code so we can play. Let's see what's on sale in the store real quick. Yeah, sure. It's in the card pack for $7.50. Let's see what we get. Let's see if we get anything cool. Well, we got one card I don't have. And kind of a single-use Ugin card. Alright. I am back up to Platinum with the new season. Haven't made it back up to Diamond yet, though. See how I do. Alright. I don't like that it's single color, but all my stuff is playable with planes, so I'll go ahead and keep it. And that rule I made for myself that I will only play starting hands that have at least 3 lands. I've broken it a couple of times and I've regretted it every time I broke it. It has not ended well for me. Do some foretelling and some booping. Boop the nose. Really look like I'm on a white deck right now. Boop the nose. Alright, so play the forest next and then the elixir. Of course I get 2 orreries. Okay. Perfect. Hey, that's not nice. Big meanie head. That's my little cleric dude. He only booped you on the nose a little bit. It's not like he did anything awful to you. guess I will wait for this to fire off, and then I'll shatter the sky. But for now, let's make a little token dude. Hey! That wasn't nice either. Oh, okay. You could have talked in chat. But I am in channel now, so I can hear your wonderful voices. Why are you calling me a goober? It's not nice. Alright. Let's shatter the sky. By the way, if any of the rest of you want to hang out and talk while I play some Magic, there's 3 of us in the Cozy Chair channel in the Discord. And put the Discord invite stuff in the chat on the stream. There we go. You know, since building this deck, I think this will be the first time I've gotten 2 of these elixirs at the same time. I've definitely fought this guy before, though. Twice the benefits. If I have less than max, like my starting health, I'll gain 4 life instead of 2. And if I've got more than starting health, I'll draw 2 extra cards. So, you know, extra benefits. It's interesting that they fired one at a time, though. So I'll get the life and the card. It's kind of neat. All right. Let's put our commander out. Ooh, it's the big Valkyrie Angel. Hey! That was nice. Well, fine then. I want my elixir back. Shoot, I can't kick that right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. All right, let's do that, and then we'll put out the lantern. Or I could kill him now. Want my elixir back. Wait. That didn't give me the... What a butthead. That didn't work like I thought it was. I thought it was just going to give it back to me. Oops. I hadn't even started damaging him. Man. What a wuss. Next match. So I've actually got several ways of getting the like rainbow deck mana. This guy lets all of my lands act as any color land. And then I've got that chromatic aura, which lets me spend mana as if it's any type. And then there's the replicating rings, which eventually provide me with 9 of any color of mana. And then the world tree. So all the options. All the things. Okay. Let's get our angel out. And hopefully we get a couple lands, preferably a forest next. So we can get that dried out. Don't like him getting Heliod though. Alright. Well, let's foretell that. And foretell that. And boop the nose. Boop. Sorry, James. Your nose needed booped. So for somebody who was complaining about having no one to talk to, you guys aren't talking much. Just sitting here babbling to myself about the game. No interaction. No love. Makes me sad. So sad. Oh, hush. Oh, I'm in here pestering you. Okay. Let's see how it is. Any chance you'd make a tea cozy, Panda? I don't know if you looked at the picture. I mean, other people might have teapots. I have a teapot. Well, that's a whole other issue. But I don't like thinking things through. That's too much work. Oh, it's too much work. Thinking things through is highly overrated. Forest, 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 forest. No attacks in turn. Don't like that brood moth. Every time I've tried to use my own brood moth, it always gets killed like instantly. It sucks. Meh. Okay. Let's see. All right. Let's get Kaya out. And let's make Heliod go away. Bye, Heliod. Oof. Much playing. Apparently Panda's making bad decisions in a different video game. Alright, let's... Well, that could have worked out better. Oh well. Sorry, Kaya. I think you're gonna die. Too bad. Oh yeah, for sure gonna die. One, two, three, four, five, six. Damn. Need 2 more mana to get Ugin out. This guy's gonna hurt real bad. Oh, he's just going straight for the kill. Okay. That's not great. Two, three, four, five, six, 7. Alright. So I can get 3 angels. Alright. Hopefully I can now survive. Fingers crossed. What's this do? Hey! It's not nice. Cool. Well, if it was really yummy, why is it good not to go back for seconds? Okay. Might be able to survive this. Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. If I draw a land, then I ought to be okay. Never mind, I'm dead. All hope is gone. You made a dumb choice? What'd you do? Is it at least a cute cosmetic? No. No, I mean, terrifying can be cute. Cthulhu's cute. He's super fucking terrifying. Alright, let's see if I can do better this time. Do you mean technically that's 3 lands? Okay. Play forest, then ring. And next turn I'll do Fabled Passage and Protector Shield. Well, that sucks. Those are pretty valuable cards. I don't like having to get rid of them. What a jerk. So is this guy mono black, or is he waiting on another thing? Man, what a butthead. Can't cast the order yet. Need 2 more. Hey. Hey. That should not have worked. Did I look a thing? Alright, I think it's cute. Oh. This card is a pain in the ass. Other people aren't supposed to use it against me, especially not my own one. Oh well. You could. Thanks. Oof. It's a hell of a ramp. Two more turns and I'll have enough mana to start casting stuff again. Not that it matters since I no longer have stuff to cast. Ugh. Alright, well. Hopefully I can keep my damn card until next turn. Fingers fucking crossed. Alright, let's see. You cost 4, 2, 3. Alright, so I will Ugin for 4. Goodbye to all your shit. Aw, you wouldn't let me kill you? It's not nice. You're supposed to let me kill you. Not just quit. Alright. Well, I think that's about it for me for today. Thanks for hanging out with me, everybody. And, yeah, it's fun. I'll see you guys. Yeah. I'll see you guys for next stream on Wednesday. I'm not going night-night. I just... Frankly, I have some limbs to trim with a chainsaw and some chipping to do. I'm thinking about renting a big chipper. I've got a little one that's a little electric chipper, but there's like 10 trees worth of limbs to do. And yeah, that would take like a month of just sitting there. So I'm thinking it might just be better to rent one and do it all in an afternoon. And then building a couple more raised beds for the garden, and then put the wood chips around as a path around the raised beds. you know, all the fun stuff outside. Okay, well, everybody have a wonderful evening, morning, day, whatever it is, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me, though. Yes, the adultings. This is adultings with gardening and stuff that I can do because everything is dead. So I don't have to worry about it. Well, almost everything's dead. The other stuff we're killing. So, you know, my black thumb is not an issue for this. But I will catch everyone later. Have a great day.